Yeah, when the kit shows up, it's generally on a pallet. I think the tunnel that we bought, which is the 30 by 150, was on a pallet that was 4 feet wide and 16 feet long. So it really is a very densely packed pallet, and you really want to know what everything is. Particularly the kit that we got, they don't have any labels on anything. So you need to know what those pieces are and where they go and how they're used, or you can talk to the manufacturer and find their instructions to figure out, because those pieces each have a very specific use and you don't want to use the wrong ones in the wrong place. Even what size screws you use changes from connection to connection.
Once you get your pallet and get all your stuff, lay it all out and then count it and verify, you know, hey, here's the pieces. You know, there again, if you got your spacing, you know, your spacing is 4 foot, you know, you should be able to go back and back calculate to make sure you got enough trusses or, you know, enough footage of purlins and stuff. So I laid piles out for all mine, and I laid my screws out and I said, okay, yep, everything is here. So once we did commence, we kind of knew based on the numbers where the parts and pieces went.
And that's a nice way, like if there's something you're putting in that you don't actually know what the spacing should be, like the things for the wind ropes on the sides, yep. You just count out how many you have and you divide it by 2 sides and you figure out what that spacing has to be.
So parts of it, you've got the truss right here, and then purlins. So here's a purlin, there's a purlin. There's 2 more purlins and a third one that matches down over on that side that run the entire length of it.
So this is a wind brace or a corner brace. You're going to want to use those on your tunnel after you have all your bows up and you have your purlins connected. You want to make sure that your end wall is plumb. And then you push it into plumb either by hand or with a ratchet strap or with a piece of equipment, and then you attach this brace. This creates a triangle, right? And we all know from geometry that triangles are the strongest shape. So you create a triangle and that keeps your tunnel from pushing itself out of plumb, either with wind or just with general wear and tear. A lot of tunnels will also include additional wind bracing to create a triangle from the hip, this is the hip of the tunnel, from the hip up to the peak. That is also important. While this Nolts kit does not include that bracing, many people would be wise to add that to their tunnels, because otherwise you are relying on slide clamps to keep your tunnel bows at the appropriate spacing on the ends. So the construction of the bows themselves, right? Step 1, you got to make sure to have a super flat level space, right? Because again, your eye will tell you, oh, this is flat and level enough. We constructed ours on the parking lot. You can do them on grass if your grass is really level. 90% of people do not have that level of a grassy space. And so for those people, finding somewhere that's concrete or asphalt or anything that's more level is better, right? Because even the slightest twist in your components will show through in your structure, and you'll see that, and it'll make some of your spacings a little wrong. So you start out, you set out your outside bow, right? That's the big pipe there that goes across the top. You slide on, in this tunnel, that's a 3-piece bow. Sometimes they can be as many as 5 or 7 pieces, but you just slide those pieces together, right? One end is generally smaller and it slides inside the next end. Once you have those laid together and level, you fasten those together with self-tapping screws. You want 2 screws per connection point, right? That's a pretty standard construction thing. You always want 2 fasteners on a connection point. After you've got them connected together, you add on the band clamps that hold on both your truss webs and your bottom cord of your truss. You add those 4 clamps on, and then you attach the metal pieces to those. These bottom cords and the truss webs have a flattened part that has been punched with a hole, and that lines up with the holes in the band clamp, and you put a bolt all the way through them. That style of connection is called a through bolt. So some tunnels, the entire structure is through bolted. These tunnels, only the truss components are through bolted to each other. Once you have those all connected loosely, you make sure that they line up how you want them to sit when they're up in the air. You can use either a stencil on the ground and you mark out the point where you want each of those components to be on the bow, or if you prefer, you can use a tape measure and measure on the bows and make sure your clamps are in the same place every time. If you're using a tape measure, you are assuming that all of the rest of your work has been good enough that measuring to the same place every time will put them in the same place.
That was kind of one of the advantages of actually having a concrete flat place to work is as you built that first one, you've made your template. You mark out where everything goes on that concrete with chalk, and basically you can just lay everything out and run with it. It goes a lot faster having that as an example as opposed to measuring everything out individually.
So if you want to set the bows by hand and don't have access to a machine, the easiest method to do that is to have at least 3 people. You put one person on each end of the bow where it will attach to the ground post, and one person in the middle. You carry it flat together until you get it about to the position where it needs to be. At that point, the person in the middle, using a long stick with a Y in it or some other prop, pushes the middle up while the people on the outsides hold their ends where they are. After it's essentially vertical, you can slide that on top of the swaged ground post. You really can't slide those swaged ends together until right at the last minute. There's not a lot of extra slop in there, and so you really need 3 people to control both ends and make sure it doesn't fall down while the person in the middle pushes up on the center of the bow.
Yeah, once you get them up, as long as you don't have a horribly windy day, the trusses will sit on the poles. I mean, they're not going to go anywhere, but you want to make sure to be able to get at least one purlin that day, because if you get a wind overnight and things start racking, it's gonna move your poles around, and before you know it, everything's going to be off. So don't get too far ahead of yourself when you're setting the trusses. I've seen that happen, and it's not any fun. So.
Yeah, I'll say one thing that really helped when framing this, and I don't know, I can't remember if we did it right away or if it kind of evolved with it, but that wood spacer board that we talked about.
Gauge.
Yeah, the gauge, yeah. And you just kind of build a few of these to float around out of 2x6 or 2x8 or something, and it spaces out the distance in between your arches, your hoops as you're putting them up. That helped majorly, because otherwise you're measuring every single one of those that you put up. And so, yeah, that was a huge time saver.
The other thing I've done before would be you can lay out your purlins on the ground and then you pull your tape measure from one end all the way down and mark them all. Yeah. Just because sometimes, like if you're measuring them in place, you'll start to gain or lose like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, and then by the time you're all the way down, you've lost quite a bit of that inter-truss spacing. But yeah, if you can get a gauge that'll work for you, it's much simpler.
If you do get off a little bit, because maybe you did the tape measure method, the purlins do slide in those loops, and so it's possible to loosen up the bolts on those cross pipe brackets and slide them a little bit and get things back into square. So not all is lost if you've got it a little bit out of shape.
Take your time and make sure that it's right, because it is tougher to fix it afterwards. So take your time, make sure things are straight and square, and you'll be a lot happier.
And if it is not straight and square, right, go back and fix it before you get plastic on and decide that you don't like it after the fact. Just fix it.
So one of the common assembly errors or pitfalls that people run into is with these pipe clamps. So you can see this here is assembled correctly, where the bolt goes through the clamp, both sides of the clamp, and then it goes through the truss piece here. And that's important, because if you, it's kind of typical, that's when you might want to put the pipe here in between the 2 sides of the clamp. And that ends up adding a little bit of a space, and then the clamp doesn't clamp tightly onto the pipe, and that reduces the strength. If your kit came with the manual, look at it. It'll probably have the right way to put that together, but this is a good example of how the engineer intended it to go together. Another problem that people see with kits sometimes is with age and wind, the rough spots on the pipes where they were swaged and they fit together will rub on the plastic here and can wear through and create holes. One of the things that people do to help extend the life of the plastic is apply this tape over those seams to smooth out that spot and keep the sharp metal burrs from rubbing through the plastic. This tape here is a tar-based window flashing tape, and that is UV resistant. and so it will last longer. Some people might use duct tape. If you use duct tape, it's not meant to be out in the sunlight, and so it's going to crumble and fall apart after a year or two in the sun.